take it all from me, so I give what it takes. Whole life been a miracle, seen everything but a cape. Why would I stop now? Found everything on a journey, but another way. Look, I'm not.
All right, what's up, Men's Physique fans, and welcome back to another video. Now, this one's gonna be a little bit different. This is not gonna be a multiple topic video or a video with many edits, if any at all. I just simply wanna press record and talk to you guys a little bit more about the epic battle that we just saw at the Sasquatch Pro and between Jeremy Buendia versus Benquil. Now, let me first start off with saying this. This is the best kind of battle. When two guys show up at their all-time best and just leave it in the judges' hands. And that's exactly what they did. Now, going into this, it was an even 50-50 split on people who were on Benquil's side versus Jeremy Buendia's side. And after that prejudging, it was the same 50-50 split of people with Ben or versus Jeremy. And again, that's the best kind of battle. Now, when it comes to their physiques in themselves, this is truly an apples and oranges situation. Jeremy is a shorter, stockier guy, a guy who fills out his weight cap. Meanwhile, you have Benquil, a guy who is taller, more of an athletic build, and still has quite a bit of room in order to touch that weight cap. Now, when you actually look at these guys' physiques, again, very different, but one thing you can clearly see is that they're both on. Now, I want to quickly break down Jeremy Buendia's physique first, and this has been a much anticipated return because the last time we saw Jeremy was back in 2023, just as he stepped off the Olympia stage, and we all knew, and he even knew, that that was not the best version of him. If anything, that was probably the worst version of Jeremy Buendia we have ever seen, but that's been glued in everybody's mind over the last couple of years. But it's officially erased because not only did Jeremy Buendia step on stage improved, but he got the damn win. Now, when I look at Jeremy's physique, like we said, shorter, stockier, but the one thing that really stood out to me was simply how he manipulated his waistline in his front shot. But when it comes to the individual routine, he did overpose. You know, I always say men's physique, you want to keep it simple, but I felt like he didn't do that. You know, he had a few different bodybuilding poses, and even though he transitioned really well in between each, you really want to keep that simple. You know, I can tell you this much, he probably won't be doing that at the Olympia if he got the feedback that I think he would have gotten from Sandy. But all I know is this, Jeremy Buendia looked significantly improved from the last time we seen him. He was conditioned, he was full in all the right areas, but the one thing that I want to see him do, because you can always see it when he does that like transition Ventura step and he squeezes on his obliques, you can see the separation, but when he's in the front shot, you don't see it as much. So if he can dig a little bit deeper or find a way to, you know, I think it's more of a posing thing, but contract his midsection in a way that really gets those obliques out, I think it's going to take his physique to the next level. What also really stood out about Jeremy's physique was just simply how balanced he was from top to bottom. Again, he has a small waist, but it's not considered smaller than somebody like Benquil, but the way that he manipulated his waistline and also the balance from, you know, top to bottom really made everybody think that his waist was just non-existent. It was just a pure manipulation, and this is what men's physique is about, right? Because you gotta understand, they only judge what they see. They don't put a tape measure around your waist to see whether or not that you have a smaller waist than the next guy. But Jeremy really stood out in the structure department, which is something that I didn't think would happen standing next to somebody like Ben. And then also the fullness. This was a full maxed out version of Jeremy Buendia. You know, I guarantee you he was within decimal points of his actual weight cap. You could tell. Now, the one thing that and I'm sure everybody else watching was anticipating seeing was whether or not he actually improved his back. Because the reality is, when somebody's at their weight cap, like Ryan Terry, Ali Bilal, you know, and Jeremy Buendia, you know, you can't really put on new muscle. You have to almost like manipulate your body by losing muscle in certain areas and gaining muscles in other areas, and that's not easy. But the one thing I will say is, even though his back looked dense, you can clearly see the muscle was there, it's almost like it wasn't pretty muscle. Like it didn't sit in the right areas, and you know, it wasn't as aesthetically pleasing, at least like his front shot was. But even though his density improved, it just, I don't know if his back is going to be considered a better back in the men's physique division when it comes to the Olympia. So I think he can still improve in the back department, but dramatically improved in the front, and overall just so impressed. As a Jeremy Buendia fan, the guy who got me into the sport, seeing the package that he brought made me so damn proud. And now Benquil, the athletic, the assassin, the aesthetic, the detail was just through the roof. The best poser in the men's physique division by far, and that was shown on this stage. But the one thing that we were all waiting to see was whether or not Ben filled in the gaps. The last time we saw Ben on stage, it was 20 pounds under his current stage cap. 20 pounds, that's insane. Now, understanding that, and he placed 9th in the world, with the updates that we saw leading into the Olympia, or better yet, leading into the show, we were wondering whether or not it was going to translate, and it did. You can clearly see that this man closed that gap between, you know, where he was to where he's going to be. Put on a lot of new muscle, and it showed on the stage. Now, from my understanding, I think his feedback was he needed to be a little bit tighter, which I'm not gonna say I agree or disagree with just based off the live stream because it wasn't good quality, but the detail in Benquil's midsection really stood out. And especially in the current day and age of men's physique where that's what we focus on, at least most people are focusing on compared, you know, if you look at the number 1, number 2 in the world, it just really stood out. And of course the balance from front to back really stood out. Now, looking at the comparison, I wonder if the legs and Benquil at all hurt him just because of how big Jeremy's legs were, but I don't think Benquil's legs were necessarily undersized. I just think that they weren't in compared to his upper body or Jeremy Buendia's lower body. But all I know is this: Benquil's posing, Benquil's new muscle, Benquil's detail through his midsection, and of course his back actually had me leaning more towards him after looking at it at prejudging. You know, but the judges saw it a different way. And I can tell you this much: this is gonna be a battle that is going to spark a lot of attention going into this year's Olympia, because they're gonna see each other again. And after looking at this, I always had Ben breaking into that, you know, top 8 at this year's Olympia, anywhere between the 5th place to 8th place. And I also see Jeremy right in that 5th to 8th place. I think these guys are gonna be one placing off. I think Ben has an opportunity to jump Jeremy, and I also think, you know, Jeremy has an opportunity to, you know, again, solidify his dominance against Ben. This was an epic battle. This was a win-win situation for Ben. He didn't necessarily need to win this to gain any kind of crazy momentum going into the Olympia, but instead just compare next to Jeremy and say whether or not, or better yet, let the judges see whether or not it was a close battle. And I do think it was. I'm really curious to see what the scorecards were because, again, if it was a perfect score, I'd be questioning it because, you know, the whole world bodybuilding community at least seemingly was split on it. But I will say this, man, this was one hell of a battle. Both of these guys showed up, showed out. I love their sportsmanship on stage. It was fun, it was exciting, and I haven't seen a show that was this fun and exciting in a while. And I'm telling you now, the Benquil camp is more motivated than ever. The Jeremy Buendia camp has gotten that confidence back. And now we're gonna see a rematch very soon. But seriously, if you guys haven't already, like, subscribe, and then also, if you guys are looking for a new coach, you guys are looking to step on stage for the first time, get nationally qualified, earn your IFBB Pro card, or you are simply tired of showing up lesser than the best version of yourself, all you guys have to do is click the link in my bio. Look at me. I promise you this shit won't be easy, but it will be worth it. As always, I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and until the next video, peace.